So this morning I want to dedicate this sermon to Sofia Blom, who is a very courageous member of our church. She purchased this sermon at our last auction back in November. And so we met and exchanged emails, and I hope I will do you proud today. Well, I've already preached this once, so I know I did you proud. Be Invictus, be unconquerable. This poem is by William Ernest Henley, who is the author. He is an English poet and wrote this when he was 26 years old, in a time where the British were known to have a stiff upper lip culture. So, in other words, you don't show your feelings outward, you suck it up, you quote unquote man up, and you persevere. And that's the context, some of the context for the era in which Henley is writing. But at 12 years old, Henley was diagnosed with tuberculosis of the bone and of the left leg, and had to have it amputated from the knee down. And after that, had to endure many surgeries, some of them on his right leg as well. He almost lost his right leg as well, but that managed to be saved. So he's writing this poem at 26 in reflection for all of the years of turmoil dealing with his personal health, dealing with the fact that he's a disabled person, dealing with the fact that there are many amputees in this era, people developing gangrene. And so he's very familiar with the pain and the struggle of that community. And these words speak of resilience and living bravely, living boldly. As I did research, I realized that this was a favorite poem of Nelson Mandela, who would cite it by heart in prison to other inmates and would teach it to them, which took me back to my college days because I pledged a music fraternity. And if you pledge any Greek fraternity, you are forced, I mean that, forced to learn this poem. But I never appreciated it until I became an adult. The poem talks about persevering even in the face of darkness. The darkness, the dark of night. A lot of people don't like it when it's dark. We don't like to go outside when it's dark. There was a song when I was growing up, The Freaks Come Out at Night. Some of us sleep with a nightlight. The dark is scary. And Joan and I, we did a little experiment with the dark. You know, we are big wellness, health and wellness people. We'll try anything. And we've done massages, we get massages, we've done acupuncture, we've done that thing where they press really hard on your feet, reflexology. I thought one guy was gonna kill me. So then we decided to try chirotherapy. Chirotherapy is when you get almost naked and you get in this little tube standing up, and you basically are in sub-0 degree temperatures. It's good for inflammation. It's, you know, it lessens your inflammation. So we tried it. It was a coupon. You get 3 for the price of 1. I don't know. I made it to 2. I just couldn't do it again. It was too cold. I did feel good afterwards. So, being the people that we are, always looking for something, we saw an ad for float therapy. So now this is when you get in this really silky tub of water, naked again. But this time you are in the dark. So in the dark, in water, as if in the womb of the mother, you just lay there for 30 minutes. Or swim around if you want to do that's fine. But you're in complete dark, and that took me by surprise. And so for a minute, I wasn't sure how I felt about it. Then as I settled in, I was thinking, okay, this is an opportunity for me to, have a vision. Maybe something transcendent will happen. Nothing happened. But for some, the darkness is scary. And for some, they don't like the dark or anything that reminds them of the dark, because in the dark, that's what I was going to say. When you're in the dark in that float tank, you can't see your hands or your feet. You can't see anything. And so existing as just pure consciousness is weird. And so some people in those moments, they get afraid because weird stuff starts popping up. Unworked stuff, unsettled stuff starts popping up. Unresolved stuff. So it gets uncomfortable. And this uneasiness also comes when we experience loss. A major loss. Or something dramatic happens that we can't explain. Throws our equilibrium off. And sometimes we're thrown into an existential crisis. Now, Carl Jung, Eckhart Tolle would say that we're having an experience that can lead to a dark night of the soul moment. A sudden breakup, a sudden loss can throw us into distress. What is this dark night of the soul? Well, Tolle defines it as a collapse of our perceived meaning in life or of life. He says it can be the arrival of meaninglessness, and that it is closely related to depression. He says it is a feeling of emptiness. Nothing makes sense anymore. There's no purpose to anything. And it's triggered by an external event or an internal awareness where the moral or religious construct falls apart. The conceptual framework for your life has collapsed, and it feels bad, lonely, sad, and there's fear. Has this happened to you? Maybe it has. It's happened to me. And I can remember 3. There's probably been more, but I remember 3. When I was in seminary, ready to be a Methodist minister, and I realized after my first year that I wasn't a Methodist, threw me right into crisis. I almost quit. It led me here. When I got a divorce, threw me into crisis. And most recently, 2019, when I got diagnosed with prostate cancer, I felt invincible up until that point. Threw me into crisis. And I, like many of you, am familiar when the moral compass you're following takes a different direction. You thought you were going north and you were going west. You ever get lost and you realize you're going the wrong way? It really makes me mad. I just know I'm going the right direction. But Jung and Tolle and others say it's okay. This is a part of being alive. This is a part of growing into a healthy, mature human being. And I like to say it's part of your spiritual awakening process. The Buddha says all are destined to become Buddhas. All are destined to wake up in this life or the next, or the next, or the next, or the next, or the next. We can emerge from this cave of nothingness into the light of possibility and emerge in a better place that is shaped by those letdowns, pains, and pressures. You all know this stuff. I'm just reminding you. And what I've found that in this new space, you don't have to have all the answers. The dark night of the soul moments teach us how to live with uncertainty and randomness and ambiguity. And until we learn that, it keeps coming. And they still come, but they affect us so much differently when we know that shadow work, and I'm going to get to that next, is not evil work. Shadow work is good for the soul. So when you emerge from the cave, from the dark, you begin to notice the sun shining on you. And there is a shadow that emerges. Now you had never seen it before. It was there, of course. You just didn't notice it. Life was good. So you could ignore it. But now you've been humbled by life. And you're able to see it and learn from it, and you see the shadow. You know, it's this big thing. It's much bigger than you are. It's glaring. It's saying, here I am, see me. And we ignore it. But finally, you're not ignoring it. You've been humbled by life, so you see it in all of its glory. And it reflects back to you a remembering in that cave of all of your fears and shortcomings. All of your life constructs that needed to be deconstructed. It comes to you as a mirror for self-examination. And here's the hard part. It reflects to you that what you love and loathe in others is what you love and loathe about yourself. Now you got to think about that. This is hard. What you loved and loathed in others is what you love and loathe in yourself. And that's where the work begins. To know thyself. To accept thyself. To love thyself. Not them out there, me in here. To love myself, to forgive myself. I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul, Henley says. That is, I am in charge of my choices. I'm choosing to be 100% responsible for my life. Yes, life has dealt me bad cards, but I'm not going to blame. I'm going to accept responsibility. I'm going to deal with the hand that I've been dealt. I'm accepting the loves and losses as my experiences, as a part of my personal spiritual transformation. So the shadow comes to allow us to do deep spiritual analysis of who and what we are. And as we do this work, slowly we are renewed. A new sense of self emerges, and it's Easter all over again. It's spring all over again. There's a rebirth and resurrection. Transformation, that's our theme this month. And so the great thinkers say this process is not bad. Now, when you get this wisdom from psychology and you go into sort of metaphysics and you look at the tarot cards, I'm not really into tarot cards, but I'm into why they were created and what the meanings of them are. That fascinates me. And in the major arcana, there are 21 cards. My favorite number is 21. And there are all of these characters, archetypes, right? The fool, the lovers, the high priestesses, the priestess, Satan is on one of the cards, the empress. These are all characters, individuals, all have these 21 characters as a part of their personality. And what's interesting is that the characters have two sides to them. They have when you're functioning on the light side of it, and when you're functioning on the shadow side of it. And the goal, of course, is to work your way through each card. And in the world card, the 21st card, it is the manifestation, the world is the manifestation of all those energies in the first 20 cards. So now you're sort of manifesting your greatness. And then the cycle continues through some other thing that you have to do, and you just start the process over. You go from a fool, not knowing, to knowing. And I've always been intrigued about who created these things. They were smart. But even the practitioners of these cards understand the light and the shadow, this play, this interplay, as necessary. My wife and I were just talking about this, how boring it would be if everything was peaceful. And sometimes I think we create drama in our lives to mix it up, to get the juices flowing, to get the shadow characters out. Imagine now in your life, you think about your life as a card game, that all the people in your life, all of the characters, the people you're sitting beside, people in the church, people you meet out at in downtown Annapolis, that all of them are characters in your game. They're actually reflections of you, of the stuff that you love and hate, manifesting to you over and over again so you can work your stuff out. Quite interesting if you think of life that way. I don't know if it's true, but what if it is? And what you come to learn from Jung and Freud and Plato and all these other great thinkers is that blame and scapegoating never leads to our personal best. And it's hard to think of life that if I'm spending my life blaming and scapegoating, those outward judgments are actual inward reflections of some unfulfilled need. When you realize life isn't working, when you have that loss of identity, what if the shadow is there showing you what you need to work on? And it's showing you what you are actually putting out in the world for better and for worse. What if we are actually attracting the things in our lives to be our teachers? Because belief is an interesting thing. Belief is that I believe something to be true. I accept this to be true, and then I see everything through that belief, good or bad. I believe this, therefore that is bad. And what if actually through that lens we are attracting in our lives that which basically confirms our own biases? And the great teachers say you actually don't get to true reality until you question every supposition and presupposition, all your thoughts, and free yourself from psychological delusions, or in Hinduism, Maya, illusion. And they say that you will be in this learning process again and again, this meaning to meaninglessness process, until you have freed yourself from illusions of judgment and blame. And that the end product is a more kind, more accepting, more well-adjusted human being. And that's why I can appreciate the hymn, For All That Is Our Life. For all that is our life, we sing or give our thanks and praise. For all life is a gift which we are called to use to build the common good and make our own days glad. And I think that's my point. These highs and lows are part of our natural evolution. However, so many prefer to project instead of reflect our stuff onto others. So life then would be a big pain projection. And yet, if we don't do this work, we won't be aware of our blind spots. I'll never forget when Joni and I went to a therapist and we were talking through stuff, and I'm perfect, so, I'm good. And you realize that you have these blind spots, like when you're driving and you almost run into somebody because they're coming up in your blind spot. And it gets you upset when you turn, whoa, it shakes you up a little bit. And that's what happened to me. There were blind spots. We all have these blind spots. And the shadow comes in. Those hard times come in to shake us up. The shadow then reveals itself to help you see those blind spots. So it's not evil. It's not good and evil. It's just good. Now, I'm not talking about systems. I'm talking about us as individuals this morning. Sophia sent me a wonderful poem by Susie Kasim, and she said these words: "You once told me you wanted to find yourself in the world, and I told you to first apply within, to discover the world within you. You once told me you wanted to save the world from all its wars, and I told you to first save yourself from the world and all the wars you put yourself through." But William Ernest Henley gets the last word this morning for his provocative poem, Invictus, the Unconquerable. I want to share it again, this time with my commentary, to give it a little bit more of a twist. Out of the night that covers me, black as the pit from pole to pole, the darkness, the shadow moments will come. I think whatever gods may be for my unconquerable soul. But I give thanks for the teachers when they arrive. They're shaping me, molding me into that unconquerable me. In the fell clutch of circumstance, I have not winced nor cried aloud. I might cry. This is not the 19th century. I might cry. I might cry in public because life is hard, but I am strong enough to endure the pain and agony. My head is bloody, but unbowed. I've been hurt, I've been bruised. By all of the random moments in life, they have rocked my world, but I will not break, I will not quit, I will overcome it. I've been disappointed, but love will prevail in me. Beyond this place of wrath and tears looms but the horror of the shade. The shade represents the losses and the feelings of hopelessness. And yet the menace of the years finds and shall find me unafraid. When I am in the dark, I am closer to the light. Therefore, I will not give in to fear and despair. I will live with courage and faith. It matters not how straight the gate, how charged with punishments the scroll. Blaming, judging does not serve me well, and I will not allow others' projections or my projections to cloud my reality, because I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. I am responsible for my life, my choices, my hopes, my relationships, and my love. Be Invictus. Be unconquerable. Amen.